In this video, I would like to talk about the readings from chapters 1, 2, and 3 of our textbook and start to discuss how they are relating to your writing in Essay 1. So let's start with the concept of rhetoric, which is what our textbook authors focus on in chapters 1, 2, and 3. I'm assuming you've done the reading. So rhetoric, as defined by our authors, is essentially the theory and practice of communication, which sounds very vague. But our textbook defines rhetoric as engaging in communication with a purpose. To think rhetorically or to act rhetorically is to consider the situation, consider the perspectives of the people involved, consider where you yourself as the writer want to engage in the topic, where you want to enter in. What is your stance? What do you want to say? Rhetoric is doing the research. It's doing your homework and being able to take a stance, make a statement, write an essay, give a speech on a topic, knowing all the facts, and also considering your audience, what they need to know, and how they might be feeling. So again, if you read the chapters, rhetoric encompasses all of these things. When you are writing in this class or anywhere, you are engaging in a rhetorical situation. The rhetorical situation encompasses all the elements, essentially, of that mode of communication. So if you recall, chapter 3 talks about when you're communicating rhetorically, you want to consider your genre, which is the type of writing that you're doing, whether that's an academic essay, a post on social media, a letter to a friend. What is your genre? A lot of us are familiar with the concept of genre when it comes to, say, movies. You have your action movie genre, or your romantic comedy genre, your horror genre. So what type of writing would be your genre? You want to consider your audience. Who is likely to be reading this? Who are you writing it for? You want to think about, what does that audience already know about your topic and what do they need to know? You want to consider what they think or believe about your topic and what you're trying to teach them. You want to consider even the appropriate wording, right? What vocabulary is this audience familiar with? And also, what tone do you want to take with them? So as anyone watching this video knows, the tone and language choice in a text to a friend is going to be very different from the tone and language choice in an email to a professor, or it should be. The tone and language choice in a post on Facebook is going to be very different from maybe the notes you write up on the job. You're charting for a patient if you're working in the medical field, for instance. Those are going to be two very different rhetorical situations. And so you're going to tailor your word choice, your tone, your organization accordingly. So there is a lot to consider when thinking about audience in the rhetorical situation. You want to consider your purpose. Why are you writing this document? You want to consider your own stance, which is your position. How do you feel about the topic? What life experiences do you have, and where are you approaching the topic from? You want to consider the larger context, which is everything that's being said and thought about your topic. Everything is a little bit too much, right? But you do want to consider the context of the rhetorical situation would be what else is being said about your topic, what tends to be public consensus on your topic, what are the constraints and requirements of the genre that you've chosen, right? The constraints of an academic essay are different from the constraints of a tweet, in terms of length and language used and sources cited and all of these things. So that would be your context. And then finally, medium and design. So literally, in what way are you formatting this communication? Is it digital? Is it print? Is it filled with pictures? Is it formatted according to APA guidelines, right? So again, if you read chapter 3, these are all of the elements of the rhetorical situation. And I bring these up because they are all important to consider as a writer. And I also want to talk about how you'll be considering this rhetorical situation as you begin your first essay. So your first essay does not require any outside research, formal bibliography, academic sources, all of those things. But it does require you to be somewhat knowledgeable about the issue you've chosen and at least be able to speak on your experience of it. So when you're looking at your stance in Essay 1, you're analyzing an issue in your community, and you're coming at it from your stance. How have you experienced it? What are the reasons that you think it's happening? How do you see it affecting you and your community, right? So you're going to be considering your stance in Essay 1. Obviously, you're going to be considering your genre and your design and medium. as you are writing an academically formatted essay. So you're going to want to familiarize yourself with either APA or MLA format. You're going to want to think about things like margins and length of paragraph and formal wording, all of those kinds of things, right? So that's going into your rhetorical situation as well. You want to think about your audience. Now, this one tends to be a little bit difficult in the academic setting because we tend to think that the audience is the teacher. And yes, you know, the instructor is the one giving you the grade, but I urge you to try to go beyond that and think about audience in terms of a general readership. Are you writing this essay for people who are familiar with your community or unfamiliar with your community? Because that's going to dictate how much you have to explain, right? Are you writing this for an audience of people who are likely to agree with you or likely to disagree with you? That will determine how you try to engage with that audience and reach common ground. So there's all sorts of things to think about with audience beyond just your instructor or perhaps your classmates. Try to think of audience in a little bit more of a general way. What is your purpose in writing? So for essay 1, we know the goal of the assignment is to analyze an issue and determine what's causing it. So keep that in mind, right? If that's the goal of the assignment, your purpose in writing this is going to be to educate your audience, inform your audience, give your opinion, those sorts of things. So all of these are things to consider with the rhetorical situation. In the next video, I do want to focus a little bit more on connecting with your audience. But for now, I encourage you, if you haven't yet, to read or reread chapters 1, 2, and 3, so you're a little bit more familiar with the concept of rhetoric and the rhetorical situation. Thanks.